Blunt, MP and Conservative. Fairly scathing there from Jeremy Corbyn, questioning what on earth is Theresa May doing in Europe today. She's not Christmas shopping. I mean, what could she achieve, do you think?
Well, ideally, she would have the backstop removed lock, stock and barrel from the agreement, which would remove the thing that is really disastrous for our country because of the eternal uncertainty it is as to what kind of customs union we're going to be in with our European partners. And that,
in the real world, though...
well, yes, but of course our European partners have made quite clear this agreement is going nowhere, and it's been signed off, and it's now up to the British Parliament to say yes or no. And we could have been saying no today probably by a majority of 250. And that's what happens when one side creams the other in a negotiation, which is what happened to us.
But the danger, of course, of what happens now with the clock ticking is we get closer and closer to a no-deal Brexit. Is that something you would welcome?
At some point, we're going to have to wake up to the fact that all this propaganda about moving to World Trade Organization terms with our partners is not a catastrophe. Simply start asking the questions of my colleagues who say no deal is unacceptable. Stop. This is very important, because this is where the argument is going to have to focus. Because actually, if you burrow down into the detail, if there are difficult consequences, they will almost all be because of the policies of our partners. Well, the policies of our partners are in their gift. And why would they ground the aeroplanes? Why would they not sell us medicine? Why would they delay the freight when they're selling twice as much stuff to us as we're selling to them? So, but no, these are very important practical points.
World Trade
and
rules
we then have,
isn't it? It's a con, because no countries operate purely under World Trade rules because they have bilateral deals with individual countries. We are going to have none, not even with the very organisation we're just leaving.
But we are ready for a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with our European partners as soon as they're ready to bring it forward. And that's the tragedy of this negotiation, which when it started was meant to encompass that future agreement. And actually the detail in the future agreement should have been to the same level as in the withdrawal agreement. But we had this whole of this period focused on the withdrawal agreement, and then a little rush to go from 7 to 26 pages right at the end about the future, the political declaration about the future. That's hopeless. What confidence do we have with that? And then we've ended up with this wretched position of the backstop. We're giving £39 billion over, which there's maybe a moral obligation, but there's certainly no legal obligation to do that. And what have we got for it?
So we've got amoral. You're happy to do that? You're happy to crash
No,
out?
I'm not happy to do it. And I think it's very important that when don't use this term crash out. We will move one day, whether it's on the 29th of March or some other day, we're going to move from today's relationship with the EU to either a World Trade Organization relationship, which is how most countries govern their trade, or we might move to a free trade arrangement. Had we done some more work on the free trade arrangement in the last 17 months, we might be slightly closer. To that point.
A lot of mights, a lot of coulds. This is what
mights and coulds are sitting in the political declaration and aspirations, and that is a very substantial part of the problem. And the European Union negotiators, by insisting on the sequencing right at the start of this negotiation, have meant that we haven't had proper focus on the future. Now, when it's clear that the United Kingdom is going to leave and we're going to honour the referendum result on the 29th of March, then there'll be focus on what World Trade Organization terms actually mean. And you only need to go back to look at the work the Foreign Affairs Committee did, published on the 12th of March 2017, 2 weeks before we gave Article 50 notice to the European Union that we're going to leave, about how these matters could be managed. And the moral obligation for the 39 billion I accept, but if the European Union pursues policies that makes life very difficult in that transition, then where does that 39 billion go? Obviously the businesses and the people hurt in the UK have first call.
It doesn't say much about any future relationship that we are going to need.
No, but we're not going to be in that place. But we have whoever is Prime Minister on the 29th of March has a very strong hand to play.
So it won't be Theresa May,
Well, obviously, as I made clear yesterday, I'm one of those MPs who are asking for a vote of confidence in our Prime Minister. She may win that vote of confidence, in which case she will be the Prime Minister on the 29th of March. But what's important is whoever is the next leader of the government is clear that we're going to go to the 29th of March, we're going to honour the result of the referendum in 2016, and we're then going to open up the possibility of free trade arrangements right around the world, that we have £39 billion to play with to protect the British position if life is made uncomfortable for us. But that would be an act of manifest self-harm for our European partners. So why would they do that? This is all a lot of campaign fear from people who actually want us to remain in the European Union, who lost the referendum in 2016 and are trying to steal it back off people. And the consequences of doing that would be very, very serious indeed for our democracy.
Crispin Blunt, thank you for coming to talk to us.